Hi everyone, welcome back to my lab and today's video, which is going to be my review and demo of the new Kaleidos Futurism collection. I shared an unboxing pictorial of this on my Instagram. I will put my Instagram handle on the screen. You should follow me there. I'd love to have you. And a lot of you were interested in hearing my thoughts. These palettes are so gorgeous. So I created looks with all of them, which I will demo for you today. I'll show you swatches and give you my thoughts on the palettes. I did purchase these myself for $56 from the Kaleidos website. Before we get into the video, if you're new here, I'm Yori. Thank you for joining me for today's review. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing and joining me for a future video. Now let's go ahead and begin. As I mentioned in the intro, I paid $56 on the Kaleidos website for my bundle of palettes. That did include free shipping. Each of the palettes are available individually, and individually they would be $24 a piece for each of the 6-pan eyeshadow palettes, so buying the bundle does give you a little bit of a savings. I first saw these palettes on my friend Bettina's channel. She's from Australia and her channel name is The Makeup Enthusiast. I'll leave her link down below in case you'd like to check out her review. She made a beautiful look, especially with this green palette. It was gorgeous. I could not resist purchasing the palettes when I saw the look she created. The palettes do ship from China and they come very safely packaged in this box, which is then completely enclosed in a bubble mailer, which is really heavy duty. And it was just such a beautiful package. It had a ribbon tied around it and the palettes were nestled safely inside. Just a gorgeous presentation. One of the most beautiful I've seen. Inside the box, you would get the 3 palettes in these outer cartons, and the outer cartons reflect the inner packaging of the eyeshadow palette. On the back side of each of the cartons, you do have information about the ingredients, and you have a 12-month shelf life and a total weight of products of 8 grams. So since you have 6 eyeshadows in each palette, that's a little over 1 gram of product in each shade, and that's a good amount of product for an eyeshadow palette. All 3 of the palettes are cruelty-free and made in the PRC. Here are the palettes themselves. You can see that they reflect the packaging of the outer carton, which is so beautiful. And if you look at each one, they have this sort of open door type of format where it reminds me a lot of the Pat McGrath. These are very heavy duty palettes. So here, when you open it up, you do have a mirror that spans the length of the palette, a protected sheet with the names of the shades, and there are your shades inside. All of the palettes are designed in the same format. It would have been nice if these shade names were printed on the palette itself, but I will just hold on to the plastic sheet to remember the names. Each of the palettes has a theme according to its name. This is the Sci-Fi Green. This one is the Futurism Bronze. And then you have Astro-Pink. So let's look at each of them individually and look at some swatches. The first palette is Futurism 1. And this one has 2 metallic shades and 4 mattes. Futurism 2 is the Cyber Bronze palette, and this one has a metallic shade, 2 shimmer shades, and 3 mattes. Lastly, we have Futurism 3, which is Astro Pink. This one has 4 matte shades, 1 metallic, and 1 duochrome. You can see from the swatches, the shadows swatch beautifully. They are so buttery and pigmented. The metallics are super foiled. Even when applied to the eyes dry, I'm really impressed. The swatches were impressive already, but I was even more impressed when I saw them applied to the eyes. I did create a look with each of the palettes. So let's go ahead and go into my Futurism 2 look, and then we'll do the Futurism 3. And lastly, I'll have to describe the look I'm wearing today, which comes from Futurism 1 because I had a big fail and technical difficulty when filming this look, and I lost some of my footage. I'm so sorry, but it's a very easy look to create, and I'll describe step by step how to do it. So let's go ahead and get into those demos. So I actually have not set my eyeshadow base, and so I'm going to begin to draw out where I would like my crease to be. The crease on this eye is actually a little bit higher than my crease on the other eye. So I do try to draw it in evenly. Also, I don't blend yet. I just try to lay down the shape of my cut crease. I'm going to take my next darkest shade and I'm going to go over that one, and I'm going to try to blend this out with this next darkest shade. So I'm using circular blending motions just over where I drew that line. Once I have that shade kind of set down, then I'm going to use windshield washer motions to blend out the heavier line. I want to make sure that I can somewhat see it so that when I cut the crease, I can use that as a guide. So now I'm using the lightest shade and I'm just going to fluff it over the edges, and I'm using circular motions. That created a really nice soft blend. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually clean underneath where I want to cut the crease using a Q-tip, and I'm going to use the P. Louise base to shade it back in. I just don't want to overlap over the eyeshadow so that I don't have too many layers over my eyes. I won't show that part in the video. It's a little bit dull and I've shown it in the past. You can let me know if you'd like to see that part, like maybe sped up or something. But I do take my time since my eyes are uneven. I'll be right back. So my crease is basically cut, and I'm going to start with the infrared shade, and I'm applying that to the inner and outer corners. Taking the next shade and going a little bit further in, making sure to overlap over the previous shade so that it starts to blend with each other. And the final shade I will place right in the center. Now I'm just going to go in with that previous shade to blend the edges just a little bit. I'm going to repeat the same pattern. This is an Esom T09 brush, and I'm just going to repeat the same pattern. I'm not going to dampen my brush or anything. I did apply a little bit of my eyeshadow base underneath as well, so I'm just giving it a quick blend. Just so you know, I'm using the shades completely dry, and I'm color switching in between. Then I'm just going to take a little bit of that droid shade just to blend underneath the lower lash line a little bit and connect it to the top. That's the basis for this eye look. It was really very simple. I spent much more time cutting my crease than anything else. So I'm going to finish the eye look with wing liner and mascara. I'm going to do my face and I will show you the finished look at the end. This is your finished look with the Futurism 2 Cyber Bronze palette. I decided to pair this look with a NARS Power Matte Lip Pigment in the shade Don't Stop. Today I primed with my MAC Soft Ochre Paint Pot and I did not set it. I'm using the first shade Lunar as a transition shade. And I'm applying that around the crease area and under the lower lash line. I have a feeling this is going to be my favorite of the three palettes. I just find it really stands out in my collection. I don't have too many palettes that look like this. The closest thing would have to be the Huda Beauty New Nude palette, and that one doesn't have the blue Neptune shade. I'm going to intensify the crease with the next lightest shade in the palette. This one is called Stardust, And I'm applying that into my crease area as well as the outer part of my eye. I'm gonna also run this one along the lower lash line. It's funny that this would be the palette I would like the best since it's the cool tone palette out of all of them. And typically I don't go for too many cool tones. I just don't feel they flatter me. The last eye look we did was more rounded, so I'm making this one a little bit more winged out. Now I'm taking the next darkest shade in the palette, and that is the shade Nebula. And I'm going to apply this in the outer V. Actually, with these tones that I'm wearing, it kind of reminds me of the Dose of Colors Marvelous Mauves palette a little bit, although that one is even more cool toned, I would say. So as you can see, I'm not having any problem blending the shades together. I mean, these are all just varying tones of the same color, so that's not really surprising, but they look really nice. This palette would make a really beautiful all matte look too. And I'm just going to put a tiny bit of that shade on the outer part of the under eye, just to kind of tie it all together. So now I'm going to go into the first metallic shade, and this is the shade Light Year. I'm using my brush completely dry again, just so that I can demonstrate how the shadows perform. I'm applying this kind of in a half cut crease shape, but I didn't actually go in and cut my crease. I'm just letting the brush do the work for me. This is actually quite pretty as is, but I do want to use all the shades in the palette, so I'm going to go into the shade Neptune. That's the blue in the palette, and I'm just going to use my finger. That shade actually picks up some nice tones in my outfit, so I'm happy to use it. Look at that pigmentation. Now it does go on more like a topper shade the way I'm using it, but you could always build it up by using a damp brush and a sticky base, but that's not the look I want to go for today. I'm taking just a little bit more of the Stardust shade to blend out the edges. So pretty. Now it does carry the shimmers a little bit upward. Again, you can avoid that if you use a sticky base or anything, but it's not bothering me too much at all. I really like it. Now I'm going to use the black shadow to line my upper lash line, just to help me disguise the falsies as well as demonstrate how this shade performs. This is a matte black with micro glitters, and the glitters do show up. Like, you can do a really beautiful smoky eye with this shade. I can definitely see all the possibilities. There is a matte black in one of the other palettes, I think, so it's nice that they varied the texture. Now obviously you could leave the eye look as is, but I want to add a little something extra, so I'm going to go into that shade. It's the shade Transcendence. This is like an old Stila holiday palette. I've always really liked this palette. I'm just going to use it as a brow bone highlight, as well as apply it on the inner corner. Now I hadn't done that on the other side, so you can see what it would have looked like without it. Not necessary, but I do like the effect. This is your finished eye look. I'm going to finish that one off with nude eyeliner. And my false lashes today are these Eyelure Vegas Nate collaboration, the Easy Elegance ones. I had to cut off like 10 yards off of these to get them to fit my eye, but I like them because they look really natural. So those are the lashes that I'm wearing. I'm going to go ahead and apply that, and I will be right back to show you the finished look. And this is your finished look with the Futurism 3 Astro-Pink eyeshadow palette from Kaleidos. If you're interested in today's lip combo, I have a Wet n Wild lip liner in the shade Bear to Comment and the Dominique Cosmetics Lemonade lip gloss in the shade Peach Tea. It's a really pretty look. I'm really inspired by the shades in this palette. Look at those tones. There's just so much you can do with those. I definitely wanted to use all the shades so that you can see them all in action. But yeah, so far, another really great palette. I am so sad to have to include this in the video, but unfortunately I lost my footage of when I created this eye look. I'm super disappointed about it, but I'm gonna walk you step by step on how I created the look and describe my inspiration for the look as well. So this one is the Kaleidos Futurism 1 Sci-Fi Green palette, and when I saw this palette, it reminds me a lot of the vibe of the Gemini palette, but also it reminds me a lot of the Give Me Glow Cosmetics Juicy Olive palette. It has a lot of the same tones, a lot of those murky olive tones. So here you can see them side by side and you see that they have a lot of similarities. I recently reviewed the Give Me Glow Cosmetics Juicy Olive palette and I really like it a lot. The quality is amazing. The shimmers, those metallics are incredible. Beautiful, beautiful shades. My only complaint with the palette was that I didn't think I would be able to get a lot of variety of looks using the tones that are in the palette because it's just so monochromatic. So when it came to this one, I really wanted to challenge myself and do something a little bit differently. I had come across this picture on Instagram, and the Instagram artist is Butte Soup. I will link the exact link to this photo in the description box down below in case you want to check it out. But she basically created smoked out wings. They're very big, and hers are blue, but I wanted to try to do a similar look with the green. So what I did was I started with the black shade, which is called Dark Side, and a Zoeva 322. It's a wing liner brush. It's actually a brow brush, but it's kind of a wing brush. And I stamped that dark shade all along my upper lash line and created the wing. I started with a eyeshadow base, the MAC Paint Pot, which I set down with Glossier's Powder because the upper lid is completely clean aside from the wings. So that's what I did. And then I also ran that shade along the lower lash line and smoked it out. After that, I took an Esom S31 and I took the shade Smog, which is the lighter of the olive shades, and I smoked out underneath the lower lash line. And I noticed that it started to look a little bit more forest green rather than that murky swampy green that you see in the palette. And the reason for that is because I laid it over the black. If I were to repeat the look over again, which maybe I should have, but I still like the way the look turned out, I would actually have gone through lightest to darkest so that I can see those murky colors a little bit more instead of going into the forest green, but I still think it looks nice. So after I applied that, I used an Esom S33 brush and I used the shade Radioactive to just fully smoke out the lower lash line. I then applied black eyeliner and re-intensified the black just underneath the lashes to make sure it was really nice and dark. For the inner corner, I used an Esom T09 and the shade Nuclear, and I just applied it to my inner corner completely dry, and that was the entire eye look. It was actually quite simple to create and I was working through it just fine, which is why I didn't notice that my camera stopped recording, which is heartbreaking. All I have on footage is like me going, I think I didn't record. So I'm really sorry about that, but I do hope that the explanation is enough to give you an idea of how I created the look. The eyeshadows performed beautifully. I didn't get a lot of fallout or anything like that. And I think the look is really fun. It's kind of mod in its vibe, and I thought it was something a little bit differently. Next time, I will create a bigger wing and again do the lightest to darkest gradient on the lower lash line to have a turnout that's a little bit more true to the shades that you see in the palette. But that's how I created the eye look, and I wanted you to have a close-up look of how it looks. So hopefully you enjoyed seeing that demo. My personal favorite look came from the astro-pink palette. So if you're trying to decide between each of the three palettes, if you only want to invest in one, then my preference would definitely be the astro-pink. All three of the palettes are truly something special. They're really high quality. They look beautiful on the eyes. They're easy to work with. Each of the three palettes is a completely standalone palette. You can create looks with just each of the palettes individually, as I did. They're just stunning. The quality is amazing. It's gorgeous. I'm so over the moon with this purchase. I can't even explain it. But if I had to pick a favorite, this would be it. The Astro Pink palette is truly something special. It's just something about that duochrome shade, just the way the shades are selected here. This shade is definitely my favorite. That one is called Neptune. It's a beautiful, beautiful duochrome shade. It applies beautifully as a topper shadow, but you can also use it on its own. It's just stunning. You have some neutral shades here, which are beautiful, and if you stick to this side of the palette, you can definitely create an everyday kind of look, but you can really do something special if you start to play with these metallic shades, especially together. Just stunning. Here's the Cyber Bronze palette, probably the most wearable of the three, I would say. But this one has a very special shade, which is the shade Plasma. This silver here, my goodness, is it liquid molten metal? It's gorgeous, and it looks like it's a little bit of an outlier amongst the rest of the color selection since the rest of the palette is quite warm, but it plays beautifully with the other colors. If you do a halo eye or just make it a point of interest in your eye look, just beautiful. It would also pair very well with the astro-pink palette. That's another thing. Even though you don't have any repeat shades between the three palettes, they would play with each other beautifully, and you can really create a variety of looks if you combine all three of the palettes. But this shade right here is truly something special in this specific palette. Lastly, we have the Sci-Fi Green palette. This was the one that I thought was going to be my favorite, and I do love it. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous palette. I mentioned in my description how it was very similar to the Juicy Olive palette, but this one has a little bit more versatility in my personal opinion because it does include a very rich matte black, and so you can create a variety of looks with varying depths by including that shade. And then the metallics here are a little bit more yellow based than the one in Juicy Olive, so it is different, even though it has a very similar vibe to the Juicy Olive palette, which I reviewed on my channel. So just gorgeous shades. I love all of these. I don't know what to say. I'm so excited about them. They're just beautiful. I'm so excited about what else this brand has in store. There's only one other product besides these three eyeshadow palettes on their website, and it is the Deep Sea Luster palette. It's listed as limited edition and it is sold out. I'm not exactly sure if that one came prior to these or what the case may be. This is a new brand to me, and I am so excited to see what they do next. Their eyeshadow formula is truly something special. Their packaging and attention to detail is gorgeous. Definitely a 2 thumbs up from me. Beautiful collection, and I do recommend it. I think that if you invest in these palettes, you won't be sorry. You're gonna enjoy them. They're not necessarily an everyday palette, but you can get everyday looks out of them if you want, but you can really create those really special looks as well. The day that I was wearing, I have to tell this story. The day that I was wearing Astro Pink, I went to Starbucks. I went through the drive-thru, and the girl who took my order, she's like, "Wow, your makeup is so pretty." And I was like, "Oh, thank you." I felt so good. And then I noticed when she was giving my coffee, she was giving it to me really slowly, like she was taking a really good look. It's really all about that Neptune shade. That's really the thing that adds that extra special touch that's truly noticeable, and even from, you know, the drive-through distance, she could notice it and she really liked it. So just a really special palette, really beautiful. I really enjoyed them. If you're on the fence about these, I think you should get them. You won't be sorry. They're beautiful palettes. I've seen more and more of them on smaller like channels that share a lot of indie makeup. I even saw them on Tara Baby's channel. I think that they sent her the collection, so I think it's great that they're trying to promote their product. It's really good quality. I think they're gonna do really well. I cannot wait to see what else they come up with, and I would love to pick up that Luster palette, but I didn't know about it. I'm gonna keep an eye out, see if they restock on that one, and just keep an eye on the brand in general because I'm really excited about it. That's everything for this video and my review. If you have any questions or anything I forgot to share, please leave them in the comment section down below and I'll try to answer it as best as I can. Thank you so much for joining me for another video. If you did enjoy it or find it helpful in any way, don't forget that thumbs up. I really appreciate it. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, as I would love to see you again really soon on my next video. I hope you're doing really well, and I'll catch you on my next one. Bye-bye.